evening. We will call the April 26th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to order at 7:05. And we are going to, first off, we'll introduce ourselves, and then we're going to make total mincemeat out of our agenda order. So we'll start over here.
Bob Burns.
Brian Watt. Mike Mitchell. Don Smith.
Lisa Normand.
Denise Kai, staff.
Scott Archer, Community Services Director.
Larry Potter, staff.
Thank you. Okay, well, we have a large group here from Oregon City High School from the construction class, and I understand that several of them are on multiple missions tonight, so we're going to jump down the order to our new business to discuss our newest construction project from this group. So if you can come up and introduce yourselves and fill us in.
Casey Winiger.
Bailey Anderson.
So for next year's project for our class, we have two options. And one of them is this covered area, which would be at Wesley Lynn Park, where we've been working the last couple of years. This will match all the other structures that we build out there. And these tables that are out in the back, that's what we're going to cover. And it's kind of moving on to the second stage of the park. So it's trying to outreach the back area. More like if a family wanted to have a gathering out there and didn't want to be around a bunch of children playing on the play structures and stuff, he can be out there. It costs roughly $5,500 to $4,500. We don't know the exact amount because prices always vary. And it's about double the size of the dugouts we're making this year. So it's basically double the price. That's how we roughly got our figures. So that's one of them.
Our other project is a kiosk at the entrance of Clackamas RV Park. It's just to give it a better look. And so there's a small information board down there now for a small pay area. This will have a payment box and information about the river, the park, and the Indians that once inhabited the area. And then it'll bring, the style will be determined by the engineer that we'll be meeting to go over the flood path that it will be in. And then the cost, once again, is a really rough cost amount. We made an estimate on the roof would be about $1,500 plus or minus. The hardware to cost, like the brackets and buckets and everything to use, would be roughly $1,000. The timber, such as the beams, the posts, would be $2,000, and then the concrete foundation would be roughly $3,500 to $4,500, bringing it to a total of $8,000 to $9,000. And that's basically our second project.
So are you proposing to do both, or one or the other, or what?
Both? I think it's both, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
What questions do we? I guess I have a couple of questions on the RV one. Is that a drive-through deal, or is it?
No, there's a small grass area off to the side where there's already a small information board. This one, as you can see back there, it'll be roughly about 16 feet wide. It'll be a nice area, like a covered area to walk into, and there'll be a small area in the middle. Just stand right there. In the middle, this will be a small information plaque. And then on the back of this is where the pay box would most likely be.
Oh, okay.
And then we haven't decided fully yet. This is just roughly what we came up with. But we need to meet up with the engineer. Possibly some boards on the side for more information about the park.
Okay. And build it on pontoons, so when the water...
Yeah.
I have to ask, I know that one of our goals for PRAC is more of an extensive upgrade of the whole RV park. Is this something that we're going to build and then think, oh shoot, I wish we'd built it 20 feet over there?
I think the idea is this would be incorporated into whatever we did in the future. Yeah, so we're thinking in that kind of idea. The entry point is basically the same, so, that's the entry point regardless of either now or when we do some improvements down the road.
Okay.
Yeah, good point, though.
Last meeting, we were talking about different ways to collect money, and I heard the gentleman say you're talking about a cash box or a payment box of some kind. What are your ideas for that, or have you thought along those lines yet?
That's actually a pay box supplied by the Parks Department already. It's a self-serve pay station for the RV park right now. So it's already established. And, what they're talking about as far as informational is our fee structure, some of our park regulations, and the regulations relegating to the RV park itself. So how many days you can stay, how much the spaces are. And so the pay box, I'm not sure, I'm hoping we'll build this around the pay station as it is, but if I have to move it, I can move it just to the structure also.
I think also what you might be referring to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was some discussion about the dump station for the RV park, which is a separate cash box that is where donations get made if you empty your waste tank from your RV or what have you. So that came up at our last meeting. So that might be part of what you're thinking of.
Well, I was thinking of both, really.
Okay.
Can you tell us when the master planning session or sessions are going to be? Are they on the calendar? For the RV
Yes.
park?
Well, they're on our work plan for this year. We have a lot of things on our work plan, and we also have we've had the Clackamas Park is flooded now for the third time, which causes an extensive amount of work for Mr. Potter and his staff, and a number of other things. So it's we're getting to it as best we can, but it is on our work plan to put out the RFP and to select a designer. Hopefully by this summer we'd be into that process. That's our hope. But some of it is dependent on certain factors that we can't control. And if the river would stop flooding every other week, it would sure help us a lot.
So the funding is definitely secured for that.
For the plan, not for the improvements. Yeah, just to make sure we all understand that. So I'm not misunderstood. But for the planning, we do have funding. That's correct.
Can I ask if you guys want to set that down?
Don, I know one of the RV park is one of the things that's a hot button for you. What do you have any?
Yeah, I was wondering first, is it to scale? So an inch a foot, is that what you guys are working with right there?
Yeah, it's a neat scale.
Yep. And then, have you considered ADA on those tables? Americans with Disabilities Act on the tables?
Tables are already at the park.
Yeah.
They're already there at the park?
And they were built. As you know, the Wesleyland Park is a fairly new park, and it was built to recent ADA standards. So yes.
And then on the one, the models are cool, by the way. I dig those. So on the kiosk, when you come into Clackamas Park, are you guys thinking that there would be an ODFW, to fish information or a place that they can post their stuff, or is there another place there that I didn't see already?
I don't know that Mr. Potter just stepped out, and I don't think we have anything there, but that's something we could think about. If we had that information, that would be something that we'd need to get that info, but that's a possibility.
Cool. I just have to say, you guys are pretty sharp and impressive.
Thank you.
So this, I understand the location. These picnic tables are sort of right where kind of the finished phase one part of the park ends before you kind of get to those rolling hills, and there's not a lot going on at the end.
They're like right on the border.
Okay. So it's going to kind of expand.
There's a walk path that goes back into the neighborhood, and then there's a little area, it's a little cutout area where it's...
Yeah.
So here's the end of the parking structure.
Okay, yeah, got it.
of this project goes, is this the Metro Enhancement grant funds that you guys will be using, or is it this year's, or is the proposal to use next year's? In other words, are you applying for a Metro Enhancement grant? Okay. Good.
I believe so,
Okay.
yes.
Don't know that.
Yeah, we can't write that totally until we get your, it's a process, we have to come here first.
Yeah.
And we're kind of halfway through the grant, but yes, we are going to apply for it.
Yeah, so then, I think the Metro Enhancement Grant, the next cycle is due in about a week and a half.
Right,
or
I
a
think
couple
May
weeks.
4th, right?
Yes.
May 4th?
So there's two, I don't mean to steal you guys' thunder here, but just to help kind of clarify for the board a little bit. And for those new members, that these folks have done, I don't even know how many projects with us now, 8, 10, 12, but just, and every one gets better. They've just done an incredible job, and yeah, that's great. So, kind of our procedure.
Just hand it.
Our procedure has been anytime they're proposing a new project, they'll come to the PRAC and they'll get your support or get your input. They've made changes on projects before, slight changes or modifications, and I think we even did some color modifications, or we talked about something. We've done some things like that. So anyway, there's two parts that I really see here is they're asking for your support of the project just in general, and so by the time they get here, that means that staff has already supported them during the project, and it's part of our master plan at Wesley Lynn Park, and it's just sort of it's a little bit more of a kind of a maintenance improvement type of an item at the RV park, so it doesn't really require a master plan approval or anything like that. So that's kind of part one, is just to get your support. Part two is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are probably looking for their blessing to endorse your application for the Metro grant. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yes.
We can't really write the grant without getting.
Yeah, so you guys need, they need to ask for you to probably make a formal motion to support their Metro application, and the staff, we can help kind of write the letters that they need to submit with the grant, but we definitely need the PRAC blessing, support for this thing, for them to really help them go forward and be successful.
I just have a couple general questions, just to try to understand what you guys do. I'm really curious. I was in architectural drawing in high school, and we had projects, not as many as you guys have. That's really cool. So you guys are using AutoCAD, is that right? And are you guys that you're doing that? Are you doing on Vellum, or how is this drawn out? You're just doing
We build models.
Are you guys doing calcs, or who does?
So we build 8-scale model, because my construction 2 class, they're very familiar with 8-scale, so we build these huge houses, and so almost everything we build is 8-scale, because they're familiar with it. So we come up with a general.
Brent, would you mind either coming up to the mics with these guys, or the handheld one right there, the wireless? You can grab that and talk from where you're at. For the purpose of recording the meeting, and anybody that might happen to be watching on our webcast.
I'm just more curious on their role of it. What's their process? It's really fascinating to me.
Their process?
Yeah.
They do everything.
Right.
They build the models, they conceptualize that. They basically, actually, Aaron, you guys came up with that kind of basically, you and Bailey, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I said, come up with a design, and I need it to be, my only requirement is that it looks good, because I like it to look good. And that particular thing we want to turn on the microphone.
Test.
Probably just need to hold it a little bit closer. It's working. Just hold it.
Wow. Is it going now?
We got the thumbs up.
Process. We were trying to get a fairly large beaming look down in the park. Now, that is up. If you guys have some specific design issues that you want, I just want the big beam look with the large metal brackets for a couple of reasons. It's sturdier when the river starts coming at it, and it looks really nice. Because we have a lot of experience at Wesley Lynn, we started this whole beam process, and I really like the look of it, and I think most everybody does. So that's kind of where we came up with that. I mean, that it doesn't have to be that. We will meet with, we have a staff architect, Alan Mascor, he's an architect in downtown Portland that works with our kids and gives us plans that we build our models from. We'll work with him, and then a local engineer, Dwight Mason, he's the guy that does our engineering. They do it very reasonably for us, so. But that's going to need a lot of engineering because it isn't a flood path, so.
Cool, thanks.
But now the kids are very involved with it.
Cool.
So that's, you see, everything out at Wesley Lynn is built by them, pretty much. And there's some of the electrical stuff, some stuff we turned over at the end of the project, but we do pretty much all of it. I'm very proud of them.
Thank you.
And just also for those of you that weren't here 2 or 3 years ago now, I just can't let these guys be here and get away without helping to brag for them a little bit, is I think in 2008, Mr. Tucker in his program won a very prestigious award, a state or Oregon Recreation and Parks Association annual Volunteer of the Year award for the entire state for people that do volunteer projects in parks and recreation agencies. So that was really quite an honor. So we've been able to have been recognized pretty highly.
Yeah, they're fantastic projects. I noticed one thing as I'm sitting here, and I hate to be picky, and maybe that's just, but I noticed on the existing buildings in Wesley Lynn, the beam treatment on the end has a bit of a rise in the middle of it, and your model doesn't?
This one?
Yeah. Is there any way to maybe do that same look?
Oh, we can do it, yeah, I can do anything.
They may not even be visible one from the other, right? The way that park lays out, I'm not sure. They might be too far
There's a
apart.
couple of, as long as, just my thought was, as long as the roof is the same and the wood is the same color, which it would be, I don't know if that's something you want, we can do it, but it's not quite as visible, and it is quite a ways away, so.
Yeah, it's probably completely out of sight, probably not a
If it's
probably not a
something
big
you
deal.
want, well, I mean, that's why we're here. Just to do that.
Well, I'm not trying to speak for the group, it was just something I saw.
That's fine.
It looks like a fantastic project, both of them. And the other work you guys have done has been unbelievable.
So are you guys surprised at what things cost?
Yeah.
Question? I'd like to know if these are first-year students or second or third year, or what's their experience? Fourth year?
I'm not going to fourth-year students here.
No.
Except for him. And actually, David's one of my Six Sigma. We're doing some project management stuff with a national scholar. We're doing some fun stuff, so. Yeah, these are some of my advanced kids. Well, no, this isn't all of them. This is just a representation of 25 or 30 kids. That's us.
Well, just a quick reaction. I think, I'm a new member of the committee, so I'm not aware of all the work that your group has done over the years, but it seems to me it's a wonderful experience both for the students and for the city to have this kind of work going on. Students learn and the city benefits, so I think it's terrific.
And they benefit also from being out in the city, so
Yeah.
they take a lot of pride in this. I know they do.
That's obvious, right?
Have to tell them that it has to be mentioned that you guys come up on almost every meeting.
So if we're trying to think another way we could abuse you with a different
Oh, dear. I'm glad we come.
I think that's a good segue for what I wanted to say. I think that it's obvious that they've been coordinating with Larry, but I think it would be a really good idea if somehow we can involve Britt and his team members, some members, in that master planning process. If there's any possibility that they may be involved with building out any other structure down there that would obviously fit the criteria of a Metro Enhancement Grant or otherwise, I think we should take advantage of that. If they could be a part of that process, and somehow, if that would be, that would be I know it sounds to me like a good idea, but would that be something that could happen? I would sure like to see that happen, so we could find that, a good working relationship for possible projects.
There are some future structures that I've thought about for the RV park. I think we could look at the recycling station, because there is a need for a recycling station, and this would fit in, again, in the future. Where we site it, would be according to the master plan, but definitely, I think they would fit in with some more areas, construction areas.
And to have a couple more people at the table and some ideas like that during that process, would that be something we could do?
I think that's a good possibility. There's going to be some PrAC members represented on the working group to do the master plan for the RV park, and I can't speak for Mr. Tucker and his time and his group. I know that they're limited to working during the school year, so that part could be a little tricky if we're doing some of this in the summer, but it's up to them to say they'd want to be involved or not, and if they did, I'd welcome the opportunity to bring some of the students into the process. It's another great way to
I
learn.
think that would be awesome.
But that might be a surprise right now for you, and I don't want you to commit to something that you're not ready to.
When these kids get involved in seeing the actual process rather than just building, there's a lot that goes on, there's a lot that goes on behind to even get a process. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
We don't just go start building stuff. Here we are asking your permission, and it's great that these guys see this process.
Well, it's
It's great, and to get involved with a park would be, or some sort of a master plan or planning process, just to have them see that would be spectacular from my perspective. So that's just me as a teacher.
Yeah, I think that'd be...
it would be a great benefit to find how we could work together with this group and others in this day and age, when we finally find out what the price tag is on a new look for an RV park. It would be great to have different ways to get the project accomplished. And I had one more point too. I listened to the cost figures for both of those projects, and I thought maybe, I was talking with your boss here earlier, a few minutes ago.
The boss isn't here.
About potentially adding some sort of a structure in between the ball fields, like picnic tables, where after you bought your snacks from the snack bar, you could sit down with your family or your friends and just have a hot dog or whatever, potato chips and that type of thing. That's been on my mind recently, and I know that wouldn't boost you over just adding it up in my mind the limit of a one Metro enhancement grant. I know the top level of those grant figures, and I don't think that, at least with the information I've got from you this evening, would push you over the top of that threshold. So that's just an idea, and I would offer that up to the rest of the PrAC members. And I think it could be constructed in such a fashion that we're talking foul ball territory back there, but you could also always have a roof on it and that type of thing. But anyway, it's just an idea.
Show us the class tomorrow. We'll build the model. That's what we do.
Are we looking for a motion?
Yes.
And how do you think that should be structured?
How many years are you planning on keeping at this, Brent? Because we got about 20 years of projects lined up here.
Yes, I do know why. I don't know. I don't have any plan on retiring anytime.
Okay.
First, I didn't get to say anything, but I would like to say thank you to all of you and to Mr. Tucker, because I've seen over the years all the projects that have gone on, and I have known some of the kids in the program, and the amount of experience that you all come out with when you finish this program with him is absolutely incredible. And the skills that you acquire, and the many hours of work that you do to build those facilities for us, and to do the tile work and to put it all together. I know you're out there rain, shine, in the heat, and everything trying to get it done. So thank you. This partnership is huge, and I think it's great for you guys. So thank you very much. And I would like to make a motion that PrAC support the grant proposal for the Oregon City construction team as they move forward and submit it for the Metro Enhancement Funds. Is that good? Okay.
Good. Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, so it's moved and seconded that PrAC formally support the grant proposal for these two projects by the Oregon City construction class. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So moved. Okay.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you again for everything that you've done for our parks. It really is.
It's our pleasure, it really is.
Well, it's the pleasure of everybody and all the citizens of Oregon City, too, what you turn out. It's fantastic.
Very much.
Thank you again, guys. Great job. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we are going to continue to mangle our agenda order and move on to another presentation. This is from the Parents of Murdered Children's group regarding a memorial project at Mountain View Cemetery.
Before we have our guest speakers,
Yes.
Mr. Potter's going to give you a little background and intro about this, because some of you may not be aware of this project.
Okay, great.
I want to kind of give you a quick review of that, and then we can talk about that. You can come up to the table anyway, it's okay.
So the POMC approached the City of Oregon City, Mountain View Cemetery, approximately 4 years ago, and they were trying to cite a place to put a memorial, a national memorial. And Parents of Murdered Children is a national organization. They actually have a set-aside day by the U.S. government, and it is September, Mary, what's the date?
September 25th.
September 25th, so it's nationally recognized, not holiday, but a recognized day for this group. And so when they approached us, they asked about any sites on the cemetery grounds where we could site this memorial. And we looked at the grounds of the cemetery, and we came up with a site. And so we've actually done some grant writing, and I think they're 90% of the way to having enough funds to start the project. And part of the work would be done a little bit of the work would be done in-house by staff, and most of the work would be done by private contractors. And so we're just a little short, and they've run into some, the economy kind of tanked a couple of years ago, so their charitable donations kind of dropped off. And so when we thought we had enough money, it's kind of dried up, so we're back trying to fill the last of the coffers right now. And so I'm going to turn this over to Mary, and she'll tell you what the memorial is going to look like a little bit and what they're here for too. And I'll hold up this is the artist rendition, and they've got the plans, and they've spent a lot of time, and they've got construction drawings, and they purchased granite, and what else have we purchased?
Yeah, we've got granite, and we have a lot of in-house, we have purchased the granite, made a big contribution toward that. We have in-house donations. We have the architect already taken care of, and designer. He volunteered his services and drew up these plans. We have the contractor already who is going to work for free. So we have gotten a lot of in-house donations, as well as we have gone out and had fundraisers. I think I've done almost every kind of fundraiser, from a band, having bands play for band contests to spaghetti dinners.
Chinese dinners.
You name it.
We haven't done car washes, but we have to.
Yeah.
So they're here asking for the same recommendation the construction corps did, is and I'm a co-sponsor, I guess, and the Friends of Mountain View are a co-sponsor, I guess. Well, I'm not sure I can say I'm a co-sponsor, but I've signed off with the Friends group of Mountain View Cemetery as far as recommending that they come forward and hopefully have PrAC sign on board to recommend that they apply for the Metro Enhancement Grant also. Also, Mayor Doug Neely is the one that also advised us to come forward for the Metro Enhancement Grant also.
Okay, so we're looking for the same sort of a motion of support from...
Yes.
Okay, okay. What questions do we have?
Like me to go into a little bit about us? About our-
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank
please
you.
do.
I want to first of all thank you for allowing us to come here today. This is my friend Pat Elmer, who actually was responsible for getting a hold of Larry, who gave us the piece of property from the city. And the site he gave us is absolutely gorgeous. We're on our 4th year of fundraising, and we're just about $15,000 short, and to make sure that we can do the job that we want to do. We will donate it back to the city when it is finished. And we don't want to start, and this is what they requested when they first asked the city, was that we have all the funds in place so that it would not ever be stopped in the middle. There will be enough to finish it. We asked a lot of people, because I live in Oregon City, as it happens, but it was Pat, who lived in Portland at the time, who came out and asked Oregon City, because that was her job. Her company gave her 3 months off to find us a site. So we were pretty excited about that, because we all work volunteer. I work full-time volunteer, as well as anyone who works for PRMC. We are not reimbursed. We're reimbursed by
We don't have matching shirts.
I know. When our memorial is finished, it will be the 8th one in the United States. We will probably have one of the prettiest ones, I think. It's valuably worth over $300,000 when it's finished, if you add up in-kind donations and donations that we've received. So we're very close. As I said, if $15,000 would get us there. We started fundraising actually, this is our 4th year. It's been hard because money isn't easy to get, as you all know. We have over 3,000 members. We have also, the state of Washington does not have a PLMC group. We have over 100,000 members nationally. We're a national organization. And it was founded for people who have lost loved ones to homicide. It also includes vehicular homicide as well. And we have also gone on now for our Oregon City Memorial to include firemen and police officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty in Oregon and Washington. We feel that they would love to have our loved ones' names along with theirs. The piece that we were given is absolutely gorgeous. As I said, you can see the view of Mount Hood. On the right side of us is the Veterans Memorial. We will work with them. They may use our site. Anyone may use our site to come and rest and see. As you see from your pictures, this will be it doesn't show here, but this will be cobblestones in here, which goes with the helping of the land. We tried to be as green friendly as we could possibly be. The beautiful trees that are part of the Oregon City Park will be our background, and what you see in the picture over here, Larry's picture is bigger, is a replica of Willamette Falls. One of your retired mayors suggested that, because he says, do something that incorporates Willamette Falls. Well, I did a lot of history, since I've also lived in Oregon City for 44 years. Willamette Falls was where many thousands of years ago our Indians lived there, and they lived from the fish that came over and drank the water, and so what would be more appropriate right by the Pioneer Cemetery where Indians are buried. We will have water run that will be recirculate. The water represents, can you hear me? The water represents the tears that have flown from the loss of loved ones in a violent manner. We also want to send a message that we don't forget our loved ones, and that we hope that there will be an end to some of the violence that we're seeing so much of. So that's one other thing PLMC works on, is to help reduce the violence in our country. We're nonprofit, and we are run by donations, and those who work in there, other than the director and such, in the national offices, all work for free. The falls will be made out of granite, and underneath the falls will be the names of our loved ones. To the right of it will be a built-in podium, and we hope to have speakers and such. And again, the veterans are always welcome, or if they want to do any type of thing, are welcome to use it, because it's given back to the city. And I think it will be something beautiful that we offer. We also hope to encourage a lot of visitors. We have people from all over the United States who will be coming, because the criteria is that you could have lost a loved one that was either murdered in the state of Oregon or Washington, or else you live in this state, and maybe your loved one was murdered in another state. You're still a member. There's no net charge or anything to be a member of it. They've already paid the price. We will have seating in there. Victims' Assistance from Oregon City, that work in with the district attorney, had a memorial for one of their people who had passed, and they came up there and had it at the site just because they thought it was so beautiful and so peaceful, not even being finished. And we wanted to capture, like I say, in the design of this, we have antique antique light fixtures, which we've already bought and Lori's stolen for us. Probably in the yard. But I'm joking. Anyway, to give it really the flavor of the history of Oregon City, and we will do a lot to help capture that. Okay, we have people who are coming already. We've had September 25th has been a national day set across by the government to honor those whose lives have been taken by homicide. And we have people who have already come to our memorials without even being finished, from Grants Pass, Medford, all over. So we're hoping that it will be a tourist attraction. And once it's finished, a lot of our members travel around and look at them. I have been to 4 other memorials in various states. And I think I'm going to read a very short letter that I got from one of the young women who went to school with the Oregon City girls. And I hope I can get through this, because I kept reading it so I wouldn't cry, so I'm not going to do that. And her name is Anne Marie Wood. And Anne Marie sat behind one of the Oregon City girls that was murdered, and waited for her to come back, because they were missing for a long time. And I was fortunate enough to be called when this happened, and did counseling with the children and with the families who lost these children. I went to their homes, because you're not given any help financially if your child is missing. They have to be murdered before they consider it. They consider them just runaways at many times.
About Ashley and Miranda.
Yes, the Ashley and Miranda, the 2 girls that were killed, that were murdered, yes. And anyway, she goes on to say, my classmates and I would like to ask if they would help, if we could get help with the Parents of Murdered Children Memorial Garden and what it means to us. It has been 10 years now that Miranda Gaddis and Ashley Pond were tragically murdered. During those 10 years, the memory of Miranda and Ashley have been a constant presence in our lives. For many of us, this tragedy has affected so many different parts of our lives, including what career we have decided to pursue. She has decided to pursue medicine because of this. I still remember the effect that Miranda and Ashley not only had on their classmates, but on the whole community of Oregon City. Our whole town was rocked with this tragic event, and yet, looking around our town, one would never know it. Many of us drive by the land where the bodies were discovered every day. This is the only place we have to remember our classmates and friend. In 10 years in Oregon City, this has not changed. With this site as a memorial, the only memories that we have to remember are negative ones. Miranda and Ashley should not be remembered for the way they died, but for who they were and how they lived their lives. The Parents of Murdered Children Memorial Garden will be a place where we can all remember Miranda and Ashley the way that they should be remembered. As Miranda and Ashley's classmates and friend, we will hope that they will finally have a place to go that is peaceful. We can go and simply remember. And we are honored to have our children's names up there. And not just, we're called Parents of Murdered Children, but it's for anyone who loses a loved one to homicide. And so we would be proud to have all of our names together to make a statement to the public and what Oregon is all about. And so thank you. If any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
That's a wonderful effort. Not, I mean, what can you say? Scott?
Just to add, I think Larry touched on it a little bit, but I want to make sure again that you understand. These folks have been I can't remember when this process started, 4
This is
years ago?
Yeah, we're following
Did you say 4?
2008.
Yeah,
This is the fourth year.
I was thinking it was somewhere in that timeframe, but they've been through, just so you know, this is just that final kind of push to get the project done. They've been through the channels of approval with the city as far as they've come to the Parks Committee more than one occasion, I know. I know that they also went in front of the City Commission. I remember you at the other, at our other City Hall before we even, so that's how far back it was, is giving your original, pitching your project to just to get the City Commission to say, that they supported it as well. So it's been in the works for quite a while, for 4 years, and it's been approved along the way. This isn't something that's just popping up for you to approve tonight or something. This is just the last little push of support. So I wanted to make sure that you understood the clarification, or that distinction, that they got the formal approvals in place quite a while back, and they've been working diligently, and I applaud your efforts. It's been, and you guys have been really nice to work with as an organization. So we look forward.
It's been engineered already.
Yeah, we look forward. Yeah, there's a lot that's going on, just so you know, to understand the vision that they're showing you on the, we gave you the handout as well, the picture, I guess, there, that vision, it wasn't just put together quickly in the last few days. That's been designed and worked on for a number of years, and trying to get it to the point of actually getting it built. So this is, like I say, the last little push, and we've been supportive of that effort and continue to work with them. So.
Question, Mark? Yes. I'm just curious, you're going to post all of the names of, how far back do you intend to go?
As far back as we need to go, as the names that are submitted, we will, and they will also be put in panels so that we can add names as the time goes on, unfortunately. And then if someone hears about it and didn't know about it, their name can be put in there too. No one will be left out. And Larry has also agreed that has volunteered that we can put the name, we will just have their name on there. We won't have the dates because of space. But they will keep a record at the cemetery of the birth dates and death dates of these people and the location of their name, because we expect a lot of people to come to visit it. And I want it to be, and Pat was the one who found Ocean City, although I live here, because that was her job, and she did a great job. You can't believe how many people she contacted, because we didn't want it, we wanted it at a very special place. We didn't want it at a park where kids would be climbing on it, and we wanted it that it could be used for lots of things, because we're giving it back. So, hope I answered your question.
I'd just like to say also that there are members of our group that do not have the remains of their loved ones. And this is really something special for them to have a place to go.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in D.C. when they dedicated the Vietnam Wall. And I got bright miley up here in a second. I never thought it would turn out to be like it is. I just, when it went up and they dedicated it, we thought, here's another ornament. 'Cause I was a kid at the time. But the putting the paper on the name and scratching it into the paper is something that everybody does. And so I have to applaud you. I want to jump to a more serious note, or I'm going to get emotional on you. Is this your name? Is this how to contact you?
Yes.
I have some ideas for you on the fundraising part of it.
Good. Thank you very much. It is. It's very sensitive, and I have to applaud Pat, because Pat's daughter and her unborn baby and her 3 grandchildren were all murdered at the same time. Brave lady.
So can we? I know this is off. On the grand scheme of cash, you're talking there's $15,000 left that you need to raise, and
Yes.
then what else is in that?
Well, see, because we started 4 years ago, and they don't like to give a bid for over 30 days, the cost has gone up. So we figured, and Larry was kind enough to help us, that it would probably take about 15 more. Then we had promised the city, I don't know if you remember that, Scott, that we would not start it until we had enough money, because we didn't want an unfinished project, and they didn't want an unfinished project. And so this is what with, because of the cost of everything has gone up. So we should be pretty good.
15 plus 15? Or
No,
do you just think?
15.
Oh, okay. So
Just
that's
15 is all we're asking for.
manageable.
Not all, but I know that's a lot of money.
15,000 or 15,000? Okay.
Because we hope it will be as grand as the artist rendition and the designer wanted, and the designer is also a son-in-law, so he has to be doing the job.
Did you mention what will the total cost of the project be? I think
It was well over $300,000. Because,
so you're very close. It's 15,000 away.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. So it's, and I think it will put Oregon City really, will be known, that there will be a memorial, we'll be the only one in the Northwest. And we have people who are in our group as far as Hawaii, and they're planning to come and see it. They can hardly wait. Every year, is it going to be this year? Because it's expensive for many of them to
Plus, the
come.
national organization also recognizes any memorial that's put up, and so it's advertised throughout their system, their mailing addresses and stuff. So people who travel to the Northwest, that's where they want to go, because they know it's a piece of place and comfort.
So moved.
Okay, probably need a little more detail than that. Lisa, you had it down before. You want to do it again?
Thank you, ladies, for this effort.
Thank you,
I'm
Lisa.
very excited. I hope that you finally can complete it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a great asset to the city. I would like to make a motion that PrAC support the application for the Metro Enhancement Grant for the POMC's park site by Mountain View Cemetery. Is that what it is?
Mountain, yeah.
Mountain View Cemetery.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and thank
Thank you for all the cost.
Nice job.
you, Scott.
Okay, we will jump back up to the top of the agenda now. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting? We'll get the minutes approved. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
No, I'll be the motion maker.
Sure.
tonight.
Okay, you're on a roll.
I move that we approve the minutes from the March 22nd, 12 meeting.
I second it.
It's moved and seconded. The minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
I was trying to figure out this computer.
Opposed? Okay, so the minutes are approved. Okay, now we're on to number 3, which is citizen comments on issues and items on the agenda, and I think I do see a couple of citizen members in the back there. I know why Nathan and Jolene are here. Are you here with them, or are you here to... Okay, not here to make comments. No. Okay. All right, then, welcome. We will move on to old business, and the first item on old business is the dog park. And kind of behind the scenes, indirectly, we have had, I've asked Nathan and Jolene to come to the meeting, Nathan Modlin and his mother Jolene, because they've been an integral part of the group that's been trying to get the dog park moving forward, working with the Facebook page, and Jolene set up the website, and Nathan has been to the meetings that we've had. And they have made contact with the property owner of one of the properties that we have been talking about, and there's been some interest, and that's interest from the property owner. We are endeavoring to set up a meeting with the property owner and Nathan, Jolene, and Scott, and have not been able to set that up yet. That's sort of where we're at. I wanted to just say to Nathan and Jolene, I think it's still the feeling of this group that we want to pursue the idea of a dog park. We want to have one. There's just a ton of hoops and uncertainty. And I had an opportunity a few weeks ago in a stretch where it really wasn't all that wet, and happened to be in one of our neighboring cities that I know spent a fortune on their dog park, and it was horribly, but it was almost unusable because it's undersized. And that just made me think again that we got to make sure that as we do this right, and of enough of a size, so that it doesn't turn into something that instead of being an asset, is a detriment. So I'm rambling and I'm going to stop.
Because it's going to rain, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It's going to rain, and dog owners are still going to come out, and I'll say it, this was Lake Oswego. And, I mean, they've got restrooms and paved parking lots and 2 separate areas, neither of which are big enough, and it was just literally almost unusable. And I just don't want to see us do that. As much as I want to see us have a dog park, I want to make sure that we have one that is done right.
What property, well, I haven't even been up on this for a while, what property have you identified?
Well, we haven't identified it, but there's some interest. Scott, am I going to...
If we don't have to talk about it in a public meeting, it's best not to, if we can help it. It's one that you know about, and we'll talk. Yeah.
It's not
one of the ones that we've talked about previously that isn't currently publicly owned. Yeah.
I have a question.
And if the group wanted to know more about that, we could schedule an executive session next time to update you, or depending on what's been vetted out between now and the next meeting, we might be able to discuss that in the open meetings. Kind of just depends on the circumstances with the negotiations there. That I haven't had the contact yet. I know the Maudlins have had some contact, but we're trying to connect our schedules and make a meeting work. So.
Is the thinking that if we do come up with a dog park, that there'll be restrictions in the other parks? Restrictions on dogs? Or will we still have the same way it is now, kind of unpatrolled and just on the honor system?
Well, the restrictions are there.
Right, I know they are, but they aren't.
They're not enforced, and I don't know that there's a direct connection between enforcement and a new facility. I would think the hope would be that dog owners would naturally go to that because it's going to be a more receptive environment. But the enforcement thing isn't. That's a fish that I don't want to fry.
The enforcement question, is that your...
Yeah, I think that was...
No, my question was, if we have a dog park, are the other parks will be restricted, or as they are now?
We haven't had a discussion to change our policy. The rule right now is that dogs have to be leashed, and owners have to be responsible and clean up and all that kind of stuff. We've not had any kind of discussion about. I think what you're getting at is saying that dogs not allowed in city parks or something.
I'm just curious if we've had any discussions on that.
We haven't really gone there, and
I think we'd have a hard time policing that if we did. We'd have a hard time denying somebody that shows up with a dog on a leash. You can't very well turn them away.
I wouldn't, unless there was some other compelling reason. Staff wouldn't be recommending that to make a change.
So what's the big thing about having a dog park, I guess is my follow-up question.
My hope would be that with a dog park, we could, would be to actually enforce existing rules on other sites, that the dogs are unleashed, that they are picked up. And, to me, the two go hand in hand. So, I don't know that I can...
Because you've got a legitimate alternative.
Yeah, I think that would be
an alternative.
I think
exists, or would exist at that time.
Yeah, we've, Bob, and you haven't had the luxury of the conversation. We've been talking about this for actually probably a couple years or something, and it's kind of gotten more, the discussions have gotten more significant in the last 6 months or a year or whatever. So, and, this is all of your about third meeting or whatever, so we've talked about all the benefits, and we could probably sit down at some point if you want to kind of talk about, going over that because I think we've got I know we've got some advocates on the board. I think we've got some advocates in the room that would probably like to spend about an hour with you to explain the benefits. There are a lot of reasons. So yeah, the board has kind of gone through that discussion quite extensively. So
I'm not advocating any position one way or the other. I'm just curious. And I think I've said enough.
Nathan or Jolene, would you like to say anything? What are your thoughts? I know, never mind, I won't put words in your mouth. I'll let you speak if you want to.
You want to come up, Nathan?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Nathan Melvin. So I've been working with this project for 6 months or so now as my Eagle Scout project, and recently I've realized that the length of this project may not be suitable for my specific Eagle project requirements, but I'm still willing to be active in this and help out with anything that I can do, but I may have to look at finding another project for my Eagle Scout. But I just wanted to let you all know that I'm still interested and will still stay involved in any project planning or anything that we need that way. So I'd love to have a dog park in Morgan City, so.
What's your time constraint, Nathan?
Personally, I am looking at getting my Eagle Scout this summer, and I realized that with all of the hoops, as you said earlier, that we'd have to go through, that may not be an accurate timeline for completing the project.
So, and I think we talked about that when you were here, that might be kind of ambitious. My question is, to you personally, what other projects are you considering?
I'm not sure yet. I've come up with a couple other projects that I think would benefit the city. I don't have anything ready to propose yet, but I'd still like to be a part of the dog park and still come to the meetings and support. So I don't have any definite plans for another project yet.
I was pretty impressed by your presentation to begin with, and it'd be really cool if we knew what you're up to, even if it had nothing to do with this committee.
Okay.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mike? Scott? Go ahead.
you can let the committee members go ahead first.
What is your interest? Do you train dogs, or?
I own a dog myself.
Okay. So what would you do in a dog park?
Well, a dog park for me is a great place to bring your dog and just let it do what a dog needs to do. And dogs don't do very well cooped up in a house all day, and I feel that having a dog park is a good way to let people in the city have their dogs in a place that is safe for the dogs and for other people. Also, a place that I think would just be a great place that dog owners can bring their dogs and just enjoy what they have dogs for. So.
If you've spent much, I've spent some time in them. There's a really big social element among the dog owners. That there's really no other venue you could do this. And people that own dogs love to talk about their dogs. And when you can let your dog run and know he can't run away, it allows for some pretty cool conversation and a mixture of people that would never probably ever get together for any other reason than they all have dogs. So to me, as far as in a parks setting, that's a really good role because there's a really big social component to it among the dog owners.
There is, yes.
Yep. I just want to say that I appreciate you've spent a ton of time, and we all really appreciate it, and I personally do. And I completely understand your decision, and I think it's probably the right thing. And if if I could wind the clock back to the first time you made the presentation, I wish I would have said, wow, this is, your timetable's too short for how big the project is. Because I probably, in my mind, I knew it, and I didn't say it, and I wish I had. You haven't wasted your time. You have moved the ball down the field, for sure, on getting the dog park done, and you can be proud of that. Please don't feel like you wasted your time.
No, I don't think I did.
You really did move the ball, and I hope you'll stay involved in this project, no matter what your other project is. I hope you'll stay involved in this one. And the day that we cut the ribbon, you're on the ribbon.
Thank you.
We still want to make it happen, and you've done a lot to move it forward. Thank you. You and your mom both. Thank you both.
Yeah, from the staff, I wanted to echo the same. Mike almost read my mind exactly, but I wanted to make sure that you realize that the value that you've already done, even though we don't have anything to go out to right now to let the dogs run and so forth, but we'll get there. It does take time. The folks that were just here with the presentation have been working on their project for 4 years, and they haven't even scratched dirt. That's not to say that it'll make your shoulders go down and go, oh my goodness. That's to say it does take some time and persistence, but I wanted to echo what Mike said, is that you, just by being on the ground level of even setting up that first meeting, and then we had another meeting after that, getting some things going with networking. You went out and hung posters, flyers on just about every other window in Oregon City, I think, or maybe every window. Took some extra time to do some things that we didn't really have the time to do, either as volunteer board members or as staff. And so I don't want you to lose sight of the value of what you've done. As Mike said, I completely agree. When we cut the ribbon someday on the dog park, you'll know that you've had a big part of that. And that's also not to say that even though you may need something more tangible to complete your Eagle Scout project, we're still going to be continuing this discussion. So obviously we're going to still include you, and we have some things to talk about with regard to a specific property owner that you guys have already made, I think, some inroads with, and that could have, a big part of the success of the project potentially. So in the meantime, we can continue to keep you involved. If you're really looking for something tangible and you need to say this timeline isn't realistic enough for me to have something tangible enough to do my project, we would love to work with you. Larry, before you were even done getting the sentence out of your mouth, I saw him getting his business card out of his pocket. I knew what he was doing over there, because I know Larry. He's probably got some projects in the parks that he could think of to help you succeed with your project, what you need to do more short term, and then the dog park kind of a little bit more long term. So I wanted to just say that as well, even though Mike said it so well. I just wanted to echo that from the staff, that we feel the same way and appreciate what you've done, and hope that you can continue to stay involved, even if it doesn't end up actually being your Scout project. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My personal plans for this is that I'm going to try to find another project to work on for my actual Eagle Scout project, but I'd still really like to work on this. It isn't, the dog park wasn't just for me about an Eagle Scout project. It was about actually building the dog park itself. So
good. That's excellent. Yeah, and then I think probably a part of the value of the learning, maybe, that if it's not something you actually get to apply towards your Eagle Scout project or not, or just a life lesson or whatever, but things worth doing are going to take some time. Unfortunately, with public process projects, there is a lot of process. There's permitting and land use rules and all those kind of things that we'd love to just say, I wish we could just go from start to finish and skip all that stuff, but there's a lot of rules along. But I think the value in it for you is learning a lesson that I think, you probably understand. There's a lot to doing a project, but if you can get to a project being done, it gives you such a great sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. It's something that you really can't explain until you've done that, and it would be great for you to be able to, as Mike said, if the day that we do have a ribbon cutting, hopefully you'll be right on the ribbon helping us cut it for sure. So whenever that is. So, thanks.
Thanks, Nathan.
projects. And I think Larry might have some ideas for you, so.
Anything else on that topic before we move on?
Well, when we come to Ribbon, maybe we should ask the scouts that he become a double Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
So,
Insignia on each shoulder.
yeah,
We would support that.
I don't know.
Okay, next item is our annual goals update, and Scott sent around 2 copies of that. One was sort of the editing in process, and then there was one with the 7 goals that we landed on. Any comments on those? And as we've said all along, this is just kind of a working document, subject to change at any time. Do you need a copy of it? Sure. Here you go, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought,
Well, I got the electronic copy, but I'm going to...
it was supposed to be on your monitors. Is it not linking up there?
Oh, I like to write on my hard
Okay.
copies. I'm just
Just one
I haven't
comment.
done paperless yet.
The marked up version is just for you to understand from my notes what you talked about at the last meeting as far as taking things off the list or changing some wordings or whatever it was that we did. So it's sort of like a red line copy to show you the changes that you discussed at the last meeting, and then the final clean copy would be what I assume would be your final wrapped up goals list. And if you have a different interpretation of what I took for the edited version, then by all means let me know. I just did the best I could from what the discussion was.
And if you need assistance on the viewable document, I can come around now.
He's got it, actually, he's got it up, so...
It's on, but I can't move it, so I ran your email copy. I've got a copy of it.
I think that looks good. Looks good to me. I agree with those changes, too. I know that I was late for that meeting, but that looks good. I think we need to think maybe if anybody has anything on their mind that we might add to that, not necessarily tonight, but, just thinking about.
I'm feeling kind of remorseful because I pushed for some things to be off the list. And when I opened your document today, oh my gosh, this is short. Is there more to this? So I think we might want to entertain some more goals to work simultaneously.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I want to just also urge you to think about, you've got, I almost forgot to hand you something out, maybe you can help me, Denise. This is kind of a reminder of what you've got to be cognizant of, and I know we've talked about this, is also we're working under the direction of the city commission goals that they set annually. This is just a recently printed version of the city commission's adopted goals, and I think it's important to think about how your goals link with what's on here, and also that your goals are probably going to create staff work and generate staff time, and how that links up with our work plan that's already in place. Now, granted, a lot of your goals do link with our work plan, and they do link up with what's in here too. You may not exactly say your project name in here, but there are some ways that they merge together. So I understand what you're saying, Don, about, wow, the list doesn't look very long, but those are significant projects, and we've also got to consider those other things that I just mentioned. So I just want to remind you to kind of keep all that in the perspective of what you're trying to accomplish as a group. And again, you can set whatever goals you want, and just that sometimes they may or may not link with what the work plan is and what you're able to realistically be able to do or whatever, if that makes sense, hopefully.
Yeah, it makes good sense. We just I think as a committee, we need to realize that we represent Oregon City, different parts of Oregon City, so we are a representative committee. And, if there are grassroots type of initiatives or projects or ideas out there, we can advocate for those.
Definitely.
So, but we have to obviously understand the constraints that Scott's talking about.
And I think resources, funding and resources is the big piece in all of that.
Question. Number 1, identify funding for Phase 2 where does the funding come from, and how do we get involved with identifying the funding?
Well,
Just
a lot of it is what you talked about at the very beginning of your meeting tonight. The high school construction group has been helping us complete and helping us fund and complete portions of what's kind of referred to as Phase 2. So that was some items that were not completed in the first phase of the park when we built the park originally a few years ago. There were some additional items that because of funding, we couldn't include. We had to do some cost engineering there and pull some parts of the project out and say that, we're going to do this later. So a lot of those things have been added, like the picnic shelter, the big picnic shelter, the restroom, and the concession stand that's being just about wrapped up right now, and some of these other types of things. There are some other future thoughts at that site. We've acquired the additional property that goes out towards Leland. I think at some point we're going to need to complete another part of a master plan for that to decide what the rest of that park is going to look like and some of that kind of thing. So it's not a great answer, Bob.
I'm trying to, if we're thinking about the funding or future projects, I guess, trying to make a distinction there. It's one thing to say, what are the funding sources? It's something else entirely different to say, what do we want to have done?
Yeah.
So I was just trying to...
Might be a wording thing that we could think about how you want to word that, and, looking at completing the future property master plan. I guess what I would say probably, actually that's a really good point. I hadn't really looked at it that closely and wordsmithed it, but probably what you really are doing is you're supporting the efforts of the volunteer group and the staff working with them and trying to continue to look at those types of things. And that also can mean identifying funding, can also be grants that we have the opportunity to take a look at some point in the future. But yeah, that might be a wording thing that you might want to think about changing, or whatever you want to do.
I pick at things.
That's good. That's good.
So the bottom line is we're moving forward on Phase 2 of Wesley Lynn, not originally as we intended, maybe one big lump sum of money to fund Phase 2, but certainly ad hoc or piecemeal is better than nothing. But actually, it's working out, I think, really good. I mean, I've got a good feeling about it. I realize there's much more to do, but the way that we're going about it is, in this day and age, with the funding that we don't have, I think is exemplary, actually.
Any other comments on the goal? Okay, so it is a work in progress. We can add. If Don, if you feel bad that we made it too short, pick a windmill and tilt away. We'll get it. We can update it however we need. It's an ongoing document for us.
I have a question on one of them.
Yeah.
So, and it might be redundant, I apologize. The number 7 on the Indo-Oregon Trail Turbo Center site, we're kind of just waiting for something to come down a pipeline to be able to get our hands on it, or?
Let me give you an update. I'm going to pull my calendar up here. I want to let the committee know.
I've got a lot of them, but I just...
May 8th. I told you I'd let you know when it was going to be scheduled for a city commission work session discussion.
Right.
And that has been scheduled for May 8th. It's a Tuesday. Those usually start at 5 or 5:30. Let's just say 5 to be on the safe side. I know that some of you had expressed an interest in potentially being present for that discussion and just being interested in that. And so that will be a discussion as to kind of the future and some things that are going on. The organization that is there on site managing the Visitors Information Center has gone out and applied for and actually received some grant funds to do some added programming and some things that we're going to be talking about with the City Commission in a couple of weeks here. So I guess I would encourage you to either to tune in or to come to that meeting, or stay tuned or whatever you want to do. I'll obviously give the committee a summary of that after it's occurred, so you know what's going on. And if you have anything you want to...
Maybe in the summer at some point?
I'm sorry?
Maybe in the summer at some point, or a later meeting, or...
Do what?
Just the update, or...
Then at the meeting following that, I would give you the update. of that,
Okay.
is what I'm saying, yeah. Or if there's something urgent, I would send out some email communication or what have you. But if there's specific portions of that you want to discuss as a committee going into, or before the commission work session, you're welcome to obviously do that and have that discussion.
Have another question? On that same item, I think it was the local newspaper that had an article about the end of the Oregon Trail, and some work it was decided was going to happen, and I can't remember what it was, but the article was like 2 weeks ago. Then it referred to another committee, and they named the chairman, Dan Fowler, doing something. So I was curious about what's this other committee doing, and is there a relationship between that committee that I read about in the paper and our committee? Am I making sense at all, Scott?
I don't know the exact newspaper article you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about.
It was in the newspaper, that's where I learned about it.
Clackamas Heritage Partners also go by Historic Oregon City. That's the organization I was just referring to that is at the Visitor Center currently running that in a kind of a three-way relationship with the city and the county, because we own the property and the building, but the county funds the Visitors Information Center as one of the, it's a state tourist center. Is there, your question exactly, I'm trying to answer, is there a relationship?
I'm trying to figure out the relationships, and it's, they mentioned a committee doing some work that had some authority, and they named a chairperson of that committee. And so I was wondering, all by myself, reading the newspaper, is there a relationship between this committee, that we have goals here that we're supposed to be doing some thinking about, and that committee that was...
I got you. Yeah, I just wanted to understand what you're asking. I think that all ties into that question that Don was talking about.
Who's doing what, is my, I guess...
I think that's what we're going to try to sort out, get some... we need to get some of that sorted out. There's a long, it's a long answer, and we don't have the time to discuss the whole history tonight. And again, I could, since you're new to the committee, Bob, and if you want to catch up on any particular topics, I'd be glad to sit down with you and kind of give you the whole thing. But Clackamas Heritage Partners, that's the organization that previously had a management agreement with the city to run the entire interpretive center. That agreement terminated about a couple of years ago now or so because of a number of reasons, financial and so forth, and the city took back the operation. Of course, it's not per se operating right now of the interpretive buildings. That organization, though, however, continues to run the Visitors Information Center, but they have gone and sought some grants to do some additional things to try to get some visitors back into the actual interpretive buildings or on the grounds, or some different ideas that are out there. So that all ties into the discussion that we'll be having at the work session in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that, but just for time, we could talk about that for a couple of hours probably, because there's a very long history with that.
I plan on being there. I can tell you that since I've been on this committee and I talk to people that, I'm a resident, and I talk to people that are wanting to know what happens in this room when we're here, and of all the subjects I've brought up, that's the one everybody's got input on. It seems to be a real hot button issue. No one really has the same idea, but everybody is interested. So I plan on being there, and I think your question's a really good question. Who's on first, who's on second, and really what role can we play? And I don't expect you to answer that, but that's why I plan to go.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to kind of sort out. What, basically, the city ended up with the center sort of being in our lap. We didn't expect that. That wasn't part of the long-term plan. We own the property. We've always been the ultimate owner and overseer, but the idea was that another organization was going to manage that, and in a pretty rapid time fashion, things kind of changed, and the city became, the holder of everything, and it's been a little, it's been a struggle. It's an expensive endeavor because we've got some facility issues. We've got, if we're talking about doing some programming, then there's programming costs, and there's who's going to do it. We don't have the staff in place to do a lot there. We're doing, by the way, and this may be a little beyond your question, but just so you know, we're doing all the maintenance at the site. We're doing, Larry and his staff do all the grounds maintenance. As a result of the termination of that agreement that I was talking about, the city took back the entire operation, so we're paying for just about everything. We're not paying for the staff that are there running the visitor center, and that particular kind of portion of the operation is being funded through the county tourism, the state and county tourism functions. But we're doing all the physical maintenance, the buildings. I think we're paying all the, the heat and the electricity bills, and we're cleaning the bathrooms out. There's, those kind of serve a different function beyond just the visitor center and that too, because that is a park site, in case you didn't know. So we're doing certain things, but we're trying to define, okay, what's the future there, what's going to happen. And I know we've talked about this. There's the report. There was a visioning study that was done, undertaken by the city about a year and a half ago. It concluded just towards the end of 2010, and that recommended some things that we need to consider. Self-guided kind of interpretation, doing more on the grounds, having maybe some outdoor festival type things, and a lot more activity there. It also recommended basically removing the three interpretive buildings, which hasn't been warmly embraced for the most part. So that part has been kind of, that was one of the major recommendations that really hasn't been unanimously accepted. But I think the other parts of it, the programming stuff, have been pretty well accepted. We need to define that a little bit more and kind of flesh that out. But doing some interpretation and some self-guided things that you don't have to have a staff person there, that you can just do. We've talked about some of those types of things. In fact, those are some of the things that the grant application are intended to do, or increase the ability for a visitor to come to the end of the Oregon Trail and show up and not have to pay a ticket to go into a place. Not that that's not a possibility of happening, but if you just want to visit the end of the Oregon Trail and have some type of interpretive experience, there should be a way to do that. There should be signage. We're talking about the use of technology with the mobile devices and QRC codes or whatever, where you just take the little thing and you scan it and it brings up information about it. Most folks have some form of a smartphone or an iPad, or maybe there's a way we can rent them out or lend them out through the visitor center to do a self-guided tour or something like that. So these are some of the things that are being discussed as to that. Those were some of the goals in this visioning report that were done. And are we ready to take a look at the next steps and who does what and how do we do it? These are all excellent questions, and those are all exactly what are being talked about and that we need to figure out. We need certain direction on that, and we need to know kind of which way we're going and so forth. So yeah.
So
I don't have all the answers.
Do you think, in your historical perspective, was there ever any movement towards making that thing self-funded? Meaning, whatever activity is going on in there pays for the property?
I think that was the initial idea, way back in the early days. I think there's somebody in the room here that knows a heck of a lot more than probably anybody. I wasn't here when it was opened in 94, 95-ish. I think that was part of the original business plan, and unfortunately that business model didn't didn't quite work out, and that's why we're at where we're at now. That's my understanding of it. I've been here for going on 8 years and worked through, part of that, but it was kind of, unfortunately, the last couple of years of their operation were pretty, the budget situation wasn't good, and it wasn't doing that, and the city was kind of, trying to help that limp along, but it was a business model that wasn't working. So there's some discussion about having a new business model that will work, that doesn't rely on just somebody paying something just to pay for some staff or some other function. Maybe there's some other way. There's a lot of different factors. I'm sort of brainstorming out loud a little bit with you, but these are all questions and discussion things that need answers to. Yeah. And you're just the guy to work with us to help us figure that out.
I'm biting my tongue right now, so.
So is the public input part of it kind of mostly done now, and now the commission has to figure out at the work session what to do?
We're kind of at that point,
Kind of where it's
yeah.
at.
I don't know how much public input the commission will ask for. I'm not going to speak for them, but typically a work session is, okay, here, we've got all the, we've got a bunch of information. We've been talking about something for a while. Here's sort of what we're looking at. Where do we go from here, and that type of thing. And that doesn't mean that public input is done, though. But there has been public input. I'm sure there will be more, and I don't even have the answer to that question exactly. I think we're going to try to figure out at least a moving forward point to try to go in some direction or another.
Okay.
Aren't you glad I asked that question?
Those are the exact questions that we need to ask and that we need to try to answer.
I've got to quit reading the local paper, I guess.
Well, and it is funny, that site, obviously there's a lot of history in the dirt, but it's amazing how much emotion there seems to be around those structures, which really aren't all that old. But they've got an emotional attachment to a lot of people.
Pro and con.
What?
Pro and con.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that still miss the old Kelly Fields too.
Yeah, Kelly Field,
And
softball.
they have the fields back.
True. That's Brian's recollection of that park. Yeah.
There's been a lot of different, since it's dark outside.
Wow.
It did survive the flood of '96, so.
Executive session.
Is there anything else that I can, I guess, I don't want to leave this topic and leave you with a whole bunch of questions and you're feeling like you're not quite sure what to do. I guess I'm encouraging you to tune in, and if you can do so, then come and sit in on the commission work session. That would be very helpful for you, I think, as a individual or as a board. If I can help you to understand the process any more, I would love to be able to try to do that. I think what you're hearing probably from me is that we're still trying to figure that out ourselves. Just being completely honest with you, and we're still trying to work through that. We kind of put that off. Last year, the commission's goals in 2011, they said, let's wait until this next year to make some decisions about that. There were a number of other pressing issues that had to be dealt with, and so now it's 2012, and that is one of this year's commission's stated goals, is to try to figure out some direction and potential resolution on that. So it's been a little while, but there have been other city priorities that had to be dealt with, and so we're facing trying to figure that out. So I guess what I'm saying is, if there are other ways that I can help you to understand this, I'd be happy to. We could be here, like I said, we could talk about this for quite a long time, but I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk through this some more if you need some additional information, if you need to get up to speed, or if you need to understand where we've been a little bit more and where we're trying, what's going on. Anyway, just offering to spend time if needed. So.
I think that, from what I understand, I think the work session is going to be a good point to start from, because I have to say I haven't heard anything in my mind that makes fiscal sense for that property. There's nothing I've heard yet that helps that stand on its own. And I think to ask you questions is kind of premature till we kind of let them exhaust whatever's going to happen at that meeting and see if anything substantive comes from that meeting. But as a resident and somebody who lives near that property and has a background similar to that, I'm kind of critical, but I'm half cocked at this point because I don't even know what they're thinking.
Yeah, I really encourage you to come to that meeting. I think that'll be very helpful and to have some input and everything.
And then after that, we should talk about it at length. I think if that's, the discovery process is over at that point, or at least completed as much as we can.
And I want to remind you, though, a work session is not a decision-making meeting. It's just what it says. It's a work session to try to work through a particular issue. So that the commission doesn't take any formal decision-making action at those meetings. Just so you know. So that they would have probably it'll be a lengthy discussion and hopefully a good one. And I'd be able to come back, or if you're going to be the representative down, you'd be able to come back to the next PRAC meeting and explain kind of where that discussion went and where things seem to kind of be going, and then if PRAC wants to weigh in more or whatever, however you want to approach that. So.
You plan to attend?
I'll be giving the staff report to start the discussion.
Good. And then I may need help with some help with interpretation because I don't even speak the language yet.
Give me a call, though.
Could we just get an electronic copy of the agenda of that when it's available, just to all of us?
I can't. Yeah, I'll try to remember to actually send it to you, but it gets posted online on our website.
Okay.
All the meetings, all the public meetings and agendas are on the front page of the website. You go to the meetings tab, and they're usually posted about a week or maybe a little less than a week before the meeting. So go to that, and there'll be electronic links to the information that is put in the staff reports and all that. So I'll try to remember to actually send that to you specifically, but just encourage you to try to check in on that too.
Yeah.
Is it scheduled yet? Is there a schedule yet?
It's scheduled. It's May 8th. The time is the only thing. It's either 5 or 5:30. Sometimes they start at 5 and sometimes at 5:30, I think, depending on how many items. Sometimes they even start a little bit sooner than that, but that's pretty unusual. So
Tuesday.
Anything else? Okay. Next is our annual report to the City Commission, and Brian did a great job last year when he was chair, making a brief presentation to the City Commission about our goals and progress on what we were up to. And he has suggested, and I think we all agree, that it's a good thing to do that. And Scott you sent everybody a copy of Brian's outline from last year, right? Okay.
should be on your electronic monitor there too.
Okay.
The electronic version should be.
And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that or have any suggestions. I know my thought was to start with this outline, and hopefully with Brian's help, since this is kind of his baby, to rework this thing a little bit, update some of these things, get some of our new goals listed on here, take a couple of things off, like parks disposal, because we've kind of set that aside. And then I was thinking I'd come back to our next meeting, our May meeting, with an outline of what I would like to present, and then hopefully get it on the agenda. June? The City Commission?
We can, basically the way it works is when you feel like you're ready to do that, you just let me know, and then I work with our city recorder to schedule a presentation at the earliest available meeting. That kind of depends on what's already, if an agenda's pretty full of presentations, then sometimes it'll get bumped another meeting or two. So
when Brian did it, was it in the public comments, or was it an agenda?
it's a presentation, because you're one of the city's advisory board, so you actually be on the agenda as a presentation. It's at the beginning of the meeting, so it's not under the public comments, but it's an actual presentation. Yeah. Okay. So basically, when you're ready to do that, you let me know, and I'll get you on the soonest agenda possible, and it's usually pretty quick.
Okay.
So that
did anybody have a chance to look at Brian's from last year and have any suggestions?
Looks like most of those topics are still very relevant to me.
They just need an update to what has happened, and you keep them on the agenda. Brian, would there be a chance maybe I can
Absolutely.
buy you a beverage? Coca-Cola? We'll go over it. Yeah, Coca-Cola, yeah, some evening before.
Absolutely.
In the next week.
That sounds fun.
Okay. And if anybody else has any suggestions, things that need to be added on here, email me with them or call, and we'll get them on there, and we'll bring a proposal to the next meeting.
So when's your, if I missed it, I apologize, when are you thinking you're going to present?
Well, I think it would probably be a June.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's pretty soon.
Yeah, because Brian did it in May last year, so it's not quite annual, but
There's no exact right time, it's just, the hope is you try to give a report once a year, whatever, we can do.
right. Okay.
Would you, so are you asking me to see if I can get you on one of the June agendas in? Is that what you'd like me to do? Or,
Yeah. Does that sound agreeable?
Yeah, it sounds great.
And you're presenting?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. I've talked to them before. They're not that scary.
usually, they're pretty nice, actually.
Have to pick the right agenda.
Yeah, that's true. Our agenda's pretty gentle. I don't think.
Other items on the agenda.
Our stuff is pretty fun to talk about, though.
And it's just a top, right? So if
Yeah.
it gets controversial later, I'll be
That's right.
down the road.
Unless you create anything controversial.
No plan to. Kind of ironic. Scott, and I'm sorry. No, never mind. I'll save that till later in our reports. Waterboard Park Heritage Tree Grove nomination.
Okay. I'm going to try to give you a
That's a mouthful.
rundown on this here. This was in your information, and it should also be on your attachments, correct? The city received a nomination from a citizen to nominate Waterboard Park as a heritage tree grove. I've given you. I didn't want to completely overwhelm you with documentation. I can give you more than what we have if you want to have. Depends on what you want to do with this discussion and so forth. But I tried to give you the sort of the basic info. And one of those attachments was the section of our city code that talks about heritage trees and groves. And it's a few pages into that documentation I sent you. It's at the top of it says 12.08.040 heritage trees and groves. This is the city code section that talks about what it means to have either a specific tree or trees or a grove nominated as a heritage site. And I don't know whether you've had a chance to read any of that or not, or to understand that. I don't know how much background you want me to give you on what this is, and then talk to the specifics of this nomination. This is the first time that we've talked about it. Part of the before you answer that question, you can kind of give me some guidance on how much you want to understand, or what you already understand, or whatever. The nomination was given to the city. It actually goes through our community development, our planning department, and it works its way through some processes, and eventually goes to the city commission for their final consideration. They have to make a decision as to approval or not. The Parks and Rec Committee, because we're talking about the park, obviously you're affected by that, and it specifically states in our code that the Parks and Recreation Committee, if applicable, should review an application. And in this case, obviously, this is applicable. This is the first time that you've had one of these come before you. I think this is the first time a public property has been nominated. There's another nomination that's adjacent to this. The Waterboard Park is the one that's applicable to you. There's also the current Public Works Operations Center site has also been nominated as a heritage tree grove. You can if you so wanted to, you could make comments on that, but the part that's applicable is the park, so we're focusing on that. That's the Public Works side is also being discussed as a part of the nomination process. This was reviewed by the city's Natural Resources Committee about 2 weeks ago or so, and they supported the nomination, so it's kind of moving through the channels. And as I said, it's going to go eventually before the City Commission. So this is your opportunity to weigh in on that. So that's kind of the why it's here. The part that I wanted to ask you about a little guidance on is how much more background you'd like on this to understand this. I don't know how much of a chance you had to read the information or not, but I don't want to tell you a bunch of stuff you've already read, or if you need some more explanation, I'm ready to talk about that. And then I have some specific points I want to make about this application once we get to that part of the process.
So this committee doesn't have a formal role in this process?
You do.
Well, we do.
Oh, you do, yes. In fact, you're specifically noted in the city code there. The section, the part that I was talking about, the first page of the city code, section C, number 1. This, and I'll just kind of paraphrase this a little bit. The City Commission shall review all heritage tree and grove nominations at a public meeting, notice of the meeting, et cetera, et cetera. The chair of any recognized neighborhood association in which the tree is located, and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, if applicable. And that obviously is applicable in this case because we're talking about a park. So PRAC is specifically noted in the city code as one of the review committees. Again, it's you don't make a decision. I mean, you don't have the authority to make the final decision, but you review and make a recommendation. So it's basically the code is asking you to review this application. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question, Mike? I don't know if that. And what that means is not exactly defined, but it would, that if you choose to make some type of a recommendation, either in support or not in support or otherwise or whatever, that recommendation or that communication would go forward with the application ultimately to the City Commission when that decision is made.
I have a question. So I scanned this today, but I really needed more time to try to digest it. Does this mean more work for Larry? It's these trees are going to be protected, and it looks like there's voluntary maintenance on it. And
I don't think it'll affect our workload one way or the other. I mean, it designates it. I mean, with a heritage designation, there's a certain connotation of rules, I believe, but there's still right-of-ways through there. There's utility right-of-ways. Those are still held. The utilities still have to do their maintenance. We don't have anything in the long-range plan for trees in that area. I mean, it's established.
It's also part. The Waterboard Park is one of our. It's a charter park, and it specifically is one of our natural area designated, which means that it already has been afforded a pretty high level of protection from any development or anything that would have probably impact the trees or anything that's already on the site. It already has that level of protection. I don't foresee that it would necessarily add more work level. We don't have the resources to do beyond what we're doing right now. It would take a change in direction of what our policy is, probably our resources that are available to do some things. And we've got a major ivy problem in that park, as well as a number of those types of groves with the large open spaces with the trees. We'd love to be able to solve that problem. We just frankly don't have the resources. There's been some discussion with this nomination about that it might enhance the visibility and help us get some volunteer efforts, or maybe the visibility to go after some grants or whatever, that's a possibility. This is the first one of these for us, so this is new as well. So, I think Larry's right that I don't think it necessarily adds to our workload unless there's a change in our direction, a change in the policy or the change in the resources that we have at our available to us to do anything. But it's a little bit, I guess, it's a little bit unknown because we're not quite sure.
Aren't we doing what we can right now to protect the invasive ivy, for instance, climbing up the tree already? I mean, I think we have. I've been back there, but
A lot of volunteers have done work there, and we've got a volunteer group that got a grant last year to do ivy removal. I would say half of the park is probably inaccessible for ivy removal anyway, just because of the
grade.
the topography. It's just real steep, and it'd be nice to go through and clean the ivy off the trees, but it's a pretty tough site to work at.
But yeah, we are, and that's right. And so yes, we are doing what we can, what we're able to. We're trying to get volunteers as we can. And
designating them a heritage tree or a grove would not necessarily mean that we would have a constraint to maintain them in any other way than they're already maintained.
I don't believe so.
So follow-up to that, if they were designated a heritage tree or grove, would that help further encumber that park or that property and maybe help it from being preyed upon by developers?
Well, I don't think it's open, since it is a charter park.
No, not just that park. It's because if I read this right, they're talking about you can recommend other areas and trees and other people's private property.
Right. We're not. Yeah, we're talking about this specific application, and we're specifically talking about Waterboard Park because that's where it's applicable to you. But yeah, that's part of the idea is that if it was on a private property, and the private property owner has to either be making the application themselves, or they have to agree to somebody making the application. And a public property, it doesn't just mean the city. It could be on a school district property or county property or something like that within the city. Has to also be, basically supported by the property owner.
So all the trees excuse me, Scott. All the trees have been specifically identified, or is this an ongoing process? And would we be approving an ongoing process of identifying those trees?
I'm not sure, but what the code talks about a little bit. That's actually one of the points I was going to explain to you a little bit was the code. The code does talk about tree. If you're doing a tree, a heritage grove versus just an individual tree. In this case, we're talking about many trees. It talks about inventorying the trees and having basically an understanding of what exactly you've got, and we don't have the capability to do that. At least not with the resources that we have. That would be a very difficult process for us to do. So, in some ways, the code says we're sort of supposed to do that, or at least it would be good to do that, but we're not really able to do that. So it's basically just taking the swath of the park, the entire property, and saying the entire property is a heritage.
So although there's criteria for only certain types of trees, we are determining the whole of Waterboard Park is
a grove.
Right.
By per the way that the city code makes it that, correct.
So you're protecting the fir trees, the oak trees, the cottonwoods, choke cherries. There's probably some the hollies. They're invasives. They could be protected. So I don't know how that applies to the site and how it be interpreted, since I haven't read all the rules. But it sounds like, if you designate everything there, anything over 6-inch caliper could be designated a heritage tree.
Okay.
And it could be an invasive. So I don't know how that applies.
I think because, again, I think the main thing, if I could just try to boil this down for your understanding here, is that The park is already a charter protected park. It's a natural area, protected natural area. So I think the charter already affords it a very high level of protection from any type of thing that would, do harm to the environment, take development or whatever. This probably is just something that brings a little bit more visibility and recognition to that, because it already is that anyway. Maybe there might be another public property at some point, that would be designated that isn't a charter park that then would have that level of protection given to it through the heritage tree designation. In this case, I don't think it protects it anymore, but it certainly doesn't hurt, and it probably brings some visibility or what have you. So, it's not. I don't think it's going to significantly change what we're doing there or anything like that, at least for the time being that I can see.
So the footprint of this grove matches the whole footprint of the park? Whether or not there's significant trees on it?
Yes. There's been no tree inventory done. It's just and again, this nomination came to us, so I can't speak for the applicant. I did meet with him. We had a meeting and talked about it, and he wanted to proceed with the application as it was written. We were trying to discern a little bit more about, can we figure out a way to maybe do some of that or not, but he wanted to keep the nomination as just the overall footprint of the entire park. So that's what the application is being considered is.
So if down the road, years from now, it'd be nice to have a parking lot so that people could, enjoy the grove of trees. You couldn't do that if it involved cutting down any trees.
Probably not. It does say, though, I'm not going to tell you that that's definitively true because I don't know for certain. But I think potentially that might be problematic with this natural area designation that it already has anyway.
Well, I think we're going to have a really good system of trails to lead up to that point anyway. I mean, you can already access that, and we're working on the trails that lead up to that point, and that's a really great. One of the points I want to make very, very quickly is I have a great affinity for that part of the city. I used to bike up and down that road all the time. Down it was a lot more fun than up, and a little bit more dangerous too. But I see this as perhaps a step in the right direction, in that at some point I would love to see, if we're going to call it a trail maybe through there now, because it's certainly not a road anymore, that be improved to a certain point so we can actually have a trail and whatever that looks like, especially near the big slide areas. So that would be sort of a natural step, and it wouldn't hurt. As they say, it wouldn't hurt.
We'd love to fix that. That's on our. We've talked about our deferred maintenance list with all the pathways and the trail systems and everything that we need to deal with, and that's certainly one of those.
Because it really is a really great trail right now. It's not a road, but it's a really great trail to follow up through there.
Yeah, and it's got some problems with some of the drop-offs where the road is separated. So
maybe a little with a fence or something at that point, or those couple of points.
We'd love to repair that situation, or make that situation better. That's part of our deferred maintenance plan to try to deal with. Whatever the will of the committee is to deal with the
So you're looking for a recommendation?
How can we develop a solution that?
That's what our code is suggesting that you should do, is to provide some type of recommendation about the application, and that would be passed on to the city commission.
When do they need this by?
I believe pretty soon. I think it's, and unfortunately this is the first time you've seen this and heard this, and so, I'm sorry about the timing, but that's just the process. I think it's going to be scheduled on a commission meeting before the next time that you meet. If you're feeling like you want to explore this more and investigate it to understand it, and that could be your recommendation that you could make, possibly, if that's what you wanted to do, or if you're comfortable knowing what you know right now and want to proceed that way, that, I'm just kind of giving you what different options might be. You can, your recommendation can be whatever you want.
The better question is, and I don't know if you were prepared to say this here, but what's your impression of this?
Well, I think I've already said so. I feel strongly about the protection that's already given by the charter. I think that's a great thing that we've got in place that makes it, it really does a lot of positive for our parks in terms of protecting those areas that need to be. The benefit that I can foresee would be visibility and a little bit more publicity or what have you. It doesn't change the way that we're managing the park. We're already doing what we can, and we'll continue to do so. We know that we've got some continued maintenance challenges there. I don't think it gives it any more protection from anything that either we would do currently or at some point in the future because of that charter situation. I just don't think it changes that.
There's a downside to it, as far as I can understand.
No, I don't think so.
We ought to go ahead and support it.
I guess I'm a little bit uncertain myself about saying I don't see any downside. I'm not 100% sure what all of the upside is other than the visibility of saying so, but I don't think it, on a practical level, I'm just looking at it more as the practitioner here because we're the ones that take care of that and are interested in preserving that site. I don't think it does anything different than we would do anyway. So, but it certainly doesn't. It certainly wouldn't hurt. It could bring some visibility. So, I know that's not a.
Lisa's just trying to get her name in meeting notes a bunch of times.
All right, well, based on the recommendation and the discussion, I think, and the fact that that property is already a protected site, I think PrAC would like to recommend that we approve this application for the Heritage Grove in Waterford Park.
Okay, is there a second?
I said, on one condition, that I know where tax lots $200, $300, and $500 are. That would be my last. I'm sorry for that, asking that. On the first, or actually the third page, it just says, because of the historical significance of this area, all trees of eligible species and of eligible size within Waterford Park and the adjacent lots that the city owns, namely tax lots 200, 300, and 500 should be protected as a grove. And then I can't read the next map.
Is that the public works site?
Sure, thank you.
We'd love to have some.
Okay, at the bottom of the hill. Okay.
So all those are include the public works site tax lots as well as the park.
Okay, thank you very much.
What? The public works, the existing public works?
Yes. So I mentioned that a little bit.
It's now going to be a protected.
Well, let me back up just a little bit. That's why I was trying to make. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. I was trying to make the distinction for PrAC, and you can weigh in on this however you want. But the part that pertains to you is Waterford Park. If you want to make a recommendation about the rest of the application, that's your prerogative. I don't have any recommendation. I can't make. So you might want to specify if that's the part that you're specifically talking about, or if you're just taking the whole application as a whole. I'm glad you brought that clarification up, Brian, because I sort of made that point, but not very clearly earlier.
Executive team and everything, that we have a few people that are sending people.
That's why I said there's a lot.
The feeling is we're talking only about the water.
Only within the confines of the park.
That's up to you.
Okay.
The way I was interpreting this, and the way that it was presented to me from the planning folks, was that your part of this is Waterboard Park that pertains to you. And that's my interpretation, is, as applicable, Parks and Recreation Committee as applicable. It's applicable to a park, and that's why you're talking about it. So whether you want to talk about more than that is up to you, but the application is for all of that. So
But whether we talk about it or not, it's outside the realm of our, what's it even matter?
I'm just giving you information.
If you want to park.
I understand that, and that's why I'm telling you that yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Lisa, then your motion pertains to the portion of within Waterboard Park. Okay. Okay.
Only Waterboard Park, not the tax law.
Okay. And that was second. Okay, so all those in favor of Lisa's motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was easy.
Was it? No. Okay, Parks Day proposal.
I think you brought that up at the last meeting, Mike,
I
and
did.
asked that I put that back on the agenda, so...
I did, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I wish I hadn't, because I don't think, I mean, at least I can't take it on right now, and it's probably, I mean, it's something that you'd want to do in the spring, and it's probably too late to start trying to plan to do anything, and maybe that's something that we would consider for next year.
Well, it came up in the context, at least if I remember, we were talking about the utility fee, and I think, and we were talking about how do we raise awareness about the parks so that people would want to support this fee, and the ideas came up with, with maybe, and I actually started researching geocaching, and thinking maybe there was a collective gift they could get if they were able to collect all the geocaches for all those parks. I thought about it a little further, that maybe there was this other thing you could get, I don't know, document or something saying you found all the parks. And then we talked about a park today, and I thought that was what it was related to, was trying to increase public awareness so we can approach those users.
That was the discussion.
That was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were...
But the question is, I guess, is that something we can
I think a year, but they also said that they were postponing the idea of a user fee on a ballot.
That's right.
Until when?
It is in the goals, but it says when the timing is right.
Yeah.
And that would be my question.
It's probably 2 or 3 years out. It might be sooner, it might be a little later.
Okay.
The biggest issue is that the commission wanted to wait on the discussion about the parks utility fee was to deal with the water rate issue, the water rate rollback issue first. And I think we talked about that
I
a
saw
little bit.
something you sent us today about that, heard. Yeah, there's something that I read today that was about that water rate and rolling it back.
I don't know if I sent anything out to you today, did I?
Oh, I got it from somebody else from the city then?
Probably.
So to me, 2 to 3 years out is actually a good thing, because we could maybe plan on this park stay, if this is what we're going to do, plan on this park stay for a year from now, do one, see if we got it right, we'd have another year to get it better, and then hopefully we could really hit a home run by the time we really want to raise awareness.
Yeah. And we did talk about, it was a pretty brief discussion, but we talked about there's an effort that goes on kind of through, third time I've backed into that, I'm going to get it out of my way, that it's something like National Parking Day, with the play on the word park, where you turn a little public space of some type into a little miniature park for a day, and people come and hang out, and the city of Portland has done a really good job of that. Of course, they've got a bunch of folks that can deal with that and that kind of thing, but there's a national day or a national week where these types of things occur that we might be able to latch onto that and get involved with it that way. So maybe we can take a look and find out when that usually occurs and kind of look towards the next year. I think we plan our programs and events half a year to a year or more out. And it takes time to publicize and organize and all that stuff. So that'd be my suggestion, is if we could tie it into a kind of a national event that already occurs anyway, and shoot for something on next year's calendar, then we could take a look at that. We'll need to evaluate what that means. I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, we can absolutely do it. Kind of depends a little bit on what the involvement is, but if the committee wanted to get behind it and help us out a little bit too, or whatever, and that kind of thing would be great. So.
if you make a note of it, I'd like to propose that we talk about this issue, this be one of the agenda items when we go on our own tour of all the parks in June or July, whenever we're planning that. I think July is when we said. But that could be a great agenda item for that meeting.
Sure. Okay. Good idea. Okay, anything else on that topic? Any other general business? PrAC member reports. Lisa? Okay. Done?
Report.
It's late, but just real briefly, it's kind of ironic this week. My first, I think Scott, or maybe Larry, were the only, or maybe Denise, were the only people in the room. The first time that I ever had anything to do with PrAC was over a piece of property that I thought the city should buy for parkland. A beautiful, heavily treed site, one of the last ones inside the city limits. And sadly, the trees are coming down this week. And I wish I had known about this heritage tree thing, because there's a large number of big white oaks that are coming down on that property. It's a shame. But
Which side are you talking about, Mike?
it's off of Thayer Road.
Thayer Maple Lane.
Maple Lane, right on Thayer, on the left-hand side.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it fit with, it's an underserved part of, there's no parkland on that side of Beaver Creek, but, like a lot of other things, it's money, and the developer had more money than the city, so cutting them all down this week.
The 25th of September is the parking day.
Great.
Which is 4 days after the national, what is this?
POMC.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of web stuff on it. It's pretty interesting.
Right.
Nothing to report.
Bob?
I wanted to talk about the covered wagons down there, but I'll hold my comments for next time.
The hoopies?
I did make notes to bring that up tonight, because I'm just curious about relationship things, this committee, that committee, and who's doing what. And anyway, I'm sorry for getting us off track with about 45 minutes, but...
No, you bring up a good point. It is a question, how these different committees interrelate, and we've talked before about how the different facilities interrelate. Carnegie Center's floating out there, and that site's floating out there. How does it all come together?
Or not.
That's my
Or
report.
not? Yes. Right. And everybody.
We'll be talking about that, yeah. Those are great points.
Okay, staff reports.
Okay. Just some quick things. Some of this is reminder stuff, and some of it may be new to you. Tomorrow is our Arbor Day event. We're going to be at Chapin Park at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, planting 17 new trees, and we're going to have 130 kids from Mount Pleasant Elementary coming over to join us and help us plant those trees, and they'll learn a little bit about importance of trees and all that kind of good stuff, and it ties in with our Tree City USA nomination that we're up for. So we're trying to become a Tree City USA, and that should be a fun little deal. The kids are going to go home with a little seedling tree when they're done with it as well. So anybody that wants to, this is for you and for the general public, that anybody wants to come join us, it's an open public event. And let's see, Kenema Park project, the Kenema Park Community Celebration, sort of our official ribbon cutting, again, reminder is June 14th, 5 to 7 p.m. And we'll be at Kenema Neighborhood Park.
In case you were wondering.
Ermitinger House, I think we just kind of have that on there as a standing report. Denise, do you want to mention anything where we're at on that real quick?
We are doing the A&E's architect engineer. So we do a little investigative piece prior to developing what we call construction documents. And that also gives us a course of action. So at our May 8th work session with the commission, we're going to be presenting kind of where we're at and kind of where we think we're going to be going. And we're looking at wrapping the A&E actual documents by the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of June. So we're at a 30% cost estimating point, and And then from there, I will have our work session, and if there's any questions or any direction change, then we'll finish the product by the end of June. So we're still, once we get those A&E documents, it makes it a lot easier for us to apply for more grants. A lot of those grants are very specific to exactly what you're going to be doing. And so then we can either, depending on the funding mechanisms and how those all culminate, we can do an entire project or parcel some of the pieces so that it's applicable to the funding mechanisms that we have in hand at the time. So we're hoping that once those A&Es are done, that we can garner a few more grants out there.
And then speaking of the grants on that, we have a pending grant in with the county for a community development block grant for the project that has been going through the approval processes, and it is on the funding list. It has to still kind of do some final approval stuff, but it looks pretty good that we're going to get $140,000 from the CDBG program for that. So we just keep kind of progressively building our, the thermometer, the fundraising thermometer. We keep getting at the top of that. So, and then the recreation. Anything you want to report on, Denise?
Sorry, I have to multitask here. On the recreation side, we are getting ready to do a lighting project at the pool. We're replacing old lights that are energy inefficient with efficient lighting through the Energy Trust Incentive Program. So it's not going to cost us a lot in the overall scope of the project because we'll get Energy Trust Incentive Program dollars back. So we are going to have that done by the end of June. And then on the recreation side, we're really prepping for summer concerts, movies, and camps. So that's a huge undertaking all on its own, and with a small staff, they're plugging away at it as rapidly as possible, and they do a great job every year. On the Pioneer side, I know Lynn's not here, but they are thoroughly excited that they have 2 new treadmills in their workout room. We took a 10-year-old treadmill that's kind of costing us a little bit over the long term just for the maintenance part. Kathy, being the true diligent fiscal miser that she is, acquired 2 dent and scratch treadmills for less than it would cost us for one, brand new. So with $500 in our general fund, she took what they do is they're in the concerts, they're selling sodas, they're doing hot dog sales, they're doing all these things to fundraise, little bits and pieces as we go. And so she used the dollars in that program and the donation program to fund the rest of those treadmills. And we have gotten just rave reviews that we've done some improvements to that workout room, which, healthy seniors are a lot better in the long run. And we really do try and keep them active. And we do have a lot more active seniors nowadays. So it's just, we got to keep up with the times because they're running. We just got to run a little faster. They did open the classes for this registration season, and they were full in 15 minutes. Wow. So if you're not Johnny on the spot, you're on a waiting list. So that just kind of clarifies for us that we're at and beyond our capacity, and we need to start thinking in terms of how are we going to improve upon that to open the doors a little bit wider. So we're still continuing to think in those terms. We're also, Kathy's group is prepping for the volunteer recognition in July, which is at one of our concerts in the park. And so we have to kind of go ahead of the game and make sure that we get all those pieces in play. Again, with a small staff, it really takes a lot of effort to do our daily operations and then do these bigger events. And as always, our staff is doing a great job.
Do we have the date of the volunteer recognition? Because all you folks are invited to that.
You'll get off the top of my head, it's in July.
You'll get a notice. I think you get to come and have a free burger or something and
Watch a concert.
get appreciated. That's right. Did you?
That's it.
One more thing, Larry wants to give you an update on what's going on with the flooding situation at the RV park. On again, off again, closed and open park.
So we reopened the park, I think, about 2 weeks ago. Takes us 2 to 3 weeks to get it cleaned up, to get the electricians in, the county in, water tested. I just reopened the RV park yesterday, moved the park hosts in, Then there was a river forecast came out yesterday, and the river's coming back up this weekend. So I'm closing off one side of the park again for the weekend. I called the NOAA, which is National Oceanic Atmospheric
Administration.
Administration. Thank you. It's a mouthful. To ask them, because I'm getting a lot of questions of why the line was, because we're not getting hardly any rain, we're not getting any snow. And so what's happening is the Columbia is getting a lot of snow melt, and it's backing up the Willamette, so it's rising. And I asked them for a long range, a week or two out, and the prediction is we're supposed to level out a little bit, as long as the conditions, as long as we don't have some real warm-up conditions or get a huge rain event again. Otherwise, we're right on the cusp of the whole park going back underwater again. So it's not going down, but it's stabilizing after this weekend, I guess. So let's keep our fingers crossed that nothing unusual happens.
Is there quite a bit of debris, too, that has to be cleared now, too, Larry?
No, the park's pretty clean right now.
I'm looking over there as I crossed the bridge, and it looked like it was square in Clackamas Park.
There's a lot of woody debris at the end of the park that backs up there, and we're issuing firewood permits quickly, and volunteers go in and help clean it up for us. But hopefully, like I said, next week we'll reopen the RV park proper, and we can open up the entire park without any further flooding.
Okay.
That's it for staff.
Anything else? I keep burning through my extra time is done. So we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:21. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.